well, we'd go live and go in depth, learning more about the creator behind Musiah and how it all got started. And when I went onto YouTube to start this feed up, one of the first things that I ended up seeing is the amazing Hugo. He's playing Jack in the Box. He's using the Musiah app, which if you haven't tuned into this series yet, on the AI piano teacher Intel, I've been streaming this all week. I've started playing piano um, using this app. I don't know any scales. I don't know how to play notes, and so I wanted to learn that. And I googled some stuff, and I found out about Musiah, and so now I'm a paid affiliate, or I suppose I'm sponsored by them, or it's actually up to you. You can get a free trial, and you just go to musiah.com and you can get a free trial of this software. And apparently, you can even teach a dog. This is software that can even teach a dog how to play it, apparently. But I thought it was really helpful personally. I do feel like I'm learning quicker than I expected learning music. Having a teacher or using a book or even an app on my phone because it'd be small. So I was trying to find something that I could use my actual keyboard with, and Musiah lets me do that. Musiah lets me use my actual keyboard, and that is pretty exciting to me. I can literally enter, I get graded based on how I'm playing actual notation. I've never learned how to play in my life, and there's a AI instructor that tells me what to do and tells me the timing and stuff. I don't know if this is Brendan's dog, the founder, the inventor of Musiah or not, but I could imagine perhaps it's Brendan's voice. Maybe the dog can interpret this more easily than other dogs. I don't know, but this is pretty crazy. So if you guys want a copy of your own, just go to musiah.com, and if you enter Abraham as the referrer, you can actually get an extended free trial. So just go to musiah.com/signup and blam, you can sign up for your Musiah trial, which is pretty spectacular. And here's a good example why.
One, two, three, one, two. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, go! Will.
You got a 99.8. Oops, my mic was off there. Sorry about that. So, to start, this is a pretty basic seeming interface, and there's really there's really nothing special in particular about the interface or anything, right? But the truth is there actually is. For one, you've got treasure. That's always important. And you've got a map of your progress. This is story mode, so there's different things that you'll actually have access to. And anyway, the purpose of today's video was more to go in depth, giving you behind the scenes footage. Well, that's my goal, but I've found some footage on YouTube of Brandon. I wanted to share some insights on the creator of this awesome app. I really appreciate it, and I want to help promote it. And I can make $10 per sale for sharing the app with people. And I feel like this app could change the world. This program can even teach a dog how to play, you know. So um, having the opportunity to share artificial intelligence learning with the whole world is pretty exciting for me. So that's why I'm doing this series with you guys and sharing these insights. Um, Yesterday I did Mary Part 1, and today we'll real quick. I'll start. I'll give you an example, and then we'll jump into the behind the scenes footage. So this is where I'm at right now. Level 10. There's like 130 levels or something, and this is what it sounds like. Oh yeah, I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm ready. You ready? I'm ready. You ready? I'm ready. You ready? I'm ready. You ready? Wow.
Okay, looking at part 2, we can see that it's pretty easy. The left hand only uses C's and G's, and the right hand also only uses C's and G's. If we look at the timing of the left hand, we could almost read it as long, quick, quick, short, long, quick, quick, short. Or another easy way to think of it is just to go C, cha-cha-cha, C, cha-cha-cha, G, cha-cha-cha, and so on. But by far the most reliable way to make sure your timing is accurate is to count out loud while you practice and line up the notes with the counting as you go. So you'll go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. Let's just sight read the left-hand notes from the start all the way through to the end. Just click the letter names for each note in time with the beat. I'll start the click track and count you in. 1 and 2 and 3 and go! One and 2 and 3 and go!
Oh gee, I'll get it this time.
1 and 2 and 3 and go!
Alright, this one.
1 and 2 and 3 and go! 1 and 2 and 3 and go. Well done. So Earthling, can you please put your left hand in the C position and with your left hand fifth finger, play me a C. One more time. That's it. And of course, that's the sound you'll be using for this part. Now, keep your hand there. Let's play from the beginning to the end just with the left hand. I'll start the beat and count you in. 1 and 2 and 3 and go. One and 2 and 3 and go.
Oh, come on, we got this.
One and 2 and 3 and go. One and 2 and 3 and go.
Come on, you noob.
1 and 2 and 3 and go. One and 2 and 3 and go.
The dog's better than
That's
me.
it. And in the right hand, do you know what the first note is? Yes. And this one? Yes. Let's pop your right hand in the C position and play middle C with your thumb. Exactly. Keeping your hand there, let's just play the first line with your right hand. I'll start the beat and count you in. 1 and 2 and 3 and go. Sort of, but let's think about the timing. 1 and 2 and 3 and go. Not bad, but this note was too long. But otherwise it was fine, so let's keep going. Looking at the second line, you can see that the right hand is exactly the same as the first line. The whole piece, let's practice the bits where the two hands play together. With your C position, can you play me these two notes? Good, and play these two. Once again. And play these two. One more time. That's it. And these two. That's right. And these two. Exactly. And play these two. Let's try it one more time. Not quite. Here's what you just did. It should be more like this. And make sure your left hand is in this position with one finger on each note coming up from C like this. And play C with your fifth finger, which is of course your little finger.
Well, now, I could be doing better today, apparently. On my Mary Had a Little Lamb education. Well, so without further ado, I wanted to give you guys some insight behind Musiah. So here is Brendan explaining the best way to learn piano. I thought that was pretty insightful, so it seemed like a good idea to share this with you guys today. Whoa. Getting this video queued up here. Alright, there we go, guys. Check it out.
Hello and welcome. My name is Brendan Hogan. Today, in this little session, we're going to talk briefly about the Musiah teaching method, and in particular how the method applies to the teaching of note reading. But before we get into it too much, let's just look at what is it that we're actually teaching. We're basically teaching piano lessons, even though we use keyboards for obvious practical reasons. But what else is there about that is uniquely original? Okay, well, first of all, let's have a look at some of the main methods that are known throughout the world today. There are basically three main methods: Yamaha and traditional teaching. Now, the thing with Suzuki, in no disrespect to Suzuki, but in summary, it is teaching the kids or adults to play by ear. Yamaha method, again, no disrespect to the Yamaha method, I'm sure there's more to it than this, but in summary, the gist of Yamaha is it's all about teaching the kids to read the notes using solfa names. It's do, re, mi, fa, so, etc. And then, of course, there's traditional, and by traditional I mean where we actually teach the kids to read the notes. Now, the thing is, with Suzuki, as an example, I used to live next door to a young girl in her teens, and she was getting ready for her grade 8 exam. And basically, she couldn't play the pieces, and she would ask me to come in and actually sight read the pieces for her, so she could record them in order to hear how they sound, and then she would essentially learn them for her exam by ear from the tape. So that's just an example of one of the deficiencies of the Suzuki method if it's used in isolation without at least some exposure to traditional teaching where we learn to read the notes. Yamaha, well, you know, it's another approach, another valid approach, I guess, when taken on its own merits, but I have had experience where I've taught students who've learned with Yamaha for perhaps 3 years, and they don't know where middle C is. They call middle C Do. I point to the key and say, oh, that's Do. And what the Yamaha teachers never seem to teach the kids is that Do can shift. So for example, in the key of C major, C is Do. But in the key of G major, G is Do. So it shifts. So there's no such thing as, oh, middle C is Do. It's just interesting some of the things you actually see when you come across these various methods. So by far, out of the 3 existing well-known methods, I would say traditional teaching is the best. However, having learned traditionally myself, there are some drawbacks even to traditional teaching, and it's those drawbacks and limitations that led me to gradually over time develop the Musiah teaching method. When I was a young kid learning piano, I thought I was the only one that had this problem, but basically my left hand was weaker than my right hand. So I was a little bit stronger, more confident at reading and playing with the right hand than with the left hand. And then as I got to know other students, as I, mingled with them in music school and so on, I found that some of them had the same problem. And over the last 17 years, as owner-operator of Australia's largest in-school keyboard music program, I found that many of the kids that were being taught through our program also had a similar issue. And in fact, so had many of the teachers. So basically, it seems to be the case that 95% of students all over the world, from Ireland to Australia and everywhere in between, have this funny little thing, which is a deficiency in the left hand. Why is that? The answer is surprisingly simple. It's basically the way they're being taught. It comes down to even otherwise good, well-meaning teachers are basically, for some reason, teaching the kids to habitually start every song with the right hand. There's no particular reason for this. If you ask a teacher, why do you always start with the right hand? Usually they just don't know. And yet, unwittingly, unknowingly, they're doing a huge disservice to the kids they teach all over the world. And I'm going to ask you a quick question. How many hands am I holding up? It's not a trick question. I've got 2 hands, right? Because God gave me 2 hands. Now, why logically would I repeatedly, habitually favor one hand over the other to the detriment of the other? There is no valid reason for doing it. So, very important, but very simple. The first aspect of the Musiah teaching method is start with the left hand at least 50% of the time. Now notice I say at least 50% of the time, because there is actually a very good reason why you should consider starting with the left hand more than 50% of the time. Apart from the fact that we need to do something to redress this sort of global consciousness of, oh, we must start with the right hand all the time, there's a very, very good reason over and above that. See this? This historically is what music used to be written on. As legend would have it, before we had the treble and bass staves or staffs, whichever you want to call it, you say tomato, I say tomato, however the saying goes. Before we had the 2 separate staves, music used to be written on a big stave like this, which has 11 lines. And the thing about the 11-line stave was, yes, it was harder to read than today's stave. And this thing here, see this funny little symbol on the left? That's what's called a C clef, okay? And this note here is actually a middle C. It's hard to read because obviously with 11 lines on the stave, looking at that at a glance, is it the 5th line from the bottom? Is it the 6th line from the bottom? A little bit hard to tell. So somebody quite clever came along and basically rubbed out the middle C line, thus creating 2 separate staves. And what they did was they gave middle C its own little line, which is called a ledger line. Next thing was, of course, we added the treble and bass clefs, and then we moved the staves a little bit further apart to make it even easier to read. And this seems like a good idea, of course, and for the most part it is a good idea. Let's have a look at this. This is back to our old-fashioned stave, if you like, 11 lines. Here is a chord made of 4 notes. The one advantage to the old system is that reading a chord like this, we would start at the bottom and we would scan up the stave in one eye movement. Okay? By contrast, because of the way that 95% of teachers all around the world are teaching their piano and keyboard students, today's students are basically reading the right-hand notes first. They scan up the treble stave, and then in a second inefficient eye movement, they come down to the bottom and they scan up the bass stave. So that all the time when they're reading, they're basically going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's just crazy. Okay, so even though there are two staves, this little line here, this vertical line at the side, joins the two staves to form what we still call to this day the grand staff. It is still one stave or staff. So we should be teaching students to read the notes as though it's one staff. They should be reading up in one scan per chord or per group of notes. Okay, so that's a very important aspect of reading notes, and so it brings us to an extension of the previous point, which is start pieces with the left hand first and then the right hand almost all the time. Now, sometimes you'll come across pieces where the obvious thing is to start with the right hand just because of the character of the piece, but most of the time, as a general rule, start with your left hand first and then do the right hand. And if you get the kids into the habit of starting each new piece this way, they get used to thinking about left hand first, then the right, and then they read that way. And that will do a great deal to speed up their reading. The next little tip I'd like to give you, this is a great, simple little tip that most people would never think of, but it will save your students, those of you who are teachers, it will save your students 2 to 3 years of time they would otherwise spend learning to read notes. And what it is this. Don't use phrases like every good boy deserves fruit. Okay, because if you think about it, for a child particularly, let's say a youngish child is just getting used to the alphabet, for them to read a note, let's have a look at a sample note. Okay, here's one. They were going to read this note and they're going to go, every good boy deserves fruit. Oh, fruit begins with F, therefore it's an F. They don't make that connection instantaneously the same way an adult would. Okay, so rather than going, every good boy deserves fruit, to read that note, it's much quicker to go EGBDF, just like that. So say it like a tongue twister. How quickly can you say EGBDF? Because the quicker you can say EGBDF, the quicker you can think it, and the quicker you get to the note. Okay, so by encouraging kids to continue saying, if they already know these phrases, every good boy deserves fruit, you're actually slowing them down. And it was actually my third piano teacher who got me onto this very simple tongue twister technique. So in the right hand it's EGBDF for the lines, and of course face